Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to One Objective. In today's video, we're going to be going over the old ball and chain, the old Carolina rig. Stay tuned. I want to tell you how to get more bites and catch more fish next time you throw a Carolina rig. Alright, like I said guys, today we're going to be talking about the Carolina rig. This is not a new technique. Most of you know this is a tried and true. This thing's been around for a long time. A lot of people ask me questions about my setup and what I like to throw when it comes to Carolina rigs, and because I've thrown this rig a lot, especially getting over into the kayaking side, I've actually been able to make it work a little bit more for me than I did in the bass boat side, because I know I'm kind of stuck in an area more and having to really make areas work. So this Carolina rig has been really deadly for me for the last couple years since I've been really fishing the kayak side. It's been great when I, also in the bass boat side, running points at Bugs Island and Smith and Gaston and all that, but it's also taught me how to slow down a little bit more, try to break down an area a little bit better. I mean, we got graphs and all that, but once you find that location on your graph of a brush pile or a rock pile or a point, you can go and you can either throw a big football hitted jig or a Carolina rig, and that's what I love to throw that's what I like to throw on those points when you find that structure or whatever is the Carolina rig. It's kind of like a search tool for me. I can go over and say, okay, how chunky is that rock? Or, if you can actually kind of go in and tell you're getting in a rock and you get in a little sand and where the break points are and all that. So I love a Carolina rig for that. So I'm going to show you my setup, some baits I like to use, and then also going into the leader length, my lines, and my rods. So let's get into it and I'll show you my setup. Alright guys, so let's kind of get into some of the baits that I like to throw when it comes to fishing a Carolina rig. So my main go-to bait is going to be the Missile Baits Destroyer. Now I'll go to the regular destroyer and the baby destroyer. I like them both. Just some lakes or certain times of the year I really want that big profile bait, I'll go more with the regular destroyer, but it's hard to beat either one. Love them. This is kind of a color I like to throw more when it's, like I said, we got some cloudy water, muddy water, stuff like that, or when I go to some of the lakes like around James and all that where they got darker water, I like throwing these baits. So but mainly I stick with the candy grass, the green pumpkins, more of your natural looking colors. Another bait I like to throw on there is going to be the Missile Baits 48. This bait is really hard to beat, especially when times like the bite gets really tough. And they don't want no movement. They don't want nothing. This bait right here is awesome when it gets really tough. I mean, it's a good bait either way, but I mainly go to this like cold months where you don't want a whole lot of action. It's got a great slow fall to it, and when I'm trying to get that slow fall, especially like during the winter time, I'll go with my leader. I'll go with about a 12 to 14 pound mono, and that's just because fluorocarbon sinks faster, mono doesn't sink as fast, so it just gives it a slower fall. It's got a little more stretch to it, but it does really well in the winter time when I'm trying to get that bait just to have as slow as fall as possible. And I actually got a big hook on here right now. They were biting pretty good, but they were feeding more on bait fish the last time I went out, and I was actually seeming to catch more off of this on docks when I was throwing a Carolina rig around docks. So, but I'll even go to an even smaller hook, the way it don't weigh as much, and like I say, I got that slower fall. So you can't go wrong with any kind of worms or creature baits, and like I say, you won't go wrong when it goes to the missile baits. So make sure you get you some of those next time you go for Carolina rigging. So now kind of getting to the old ball and chain part of it right here. This is actually a 3/4 weight. Most of the time that's what I throw. I have gone up to a 1 ounce weight, but it's got to be really windy. I doubt you'd ever see me throwing a 1 ounce weight really in a kayak. It's a lot easier in a bass boat because it's hard enough to sling a Carolina rig sometimes when you're sitting down in the kayak. If I'm standing up and fishing, it's a lot easier, but most of the time I'm going to stay with this 3/4 weight. It helps me work it slower. You can bump it over rocks really easy, trees and all that. So I really like the smaller. I like to go as small as I possibly can go I mean, when you get out there and it's real windy and you're fishing way offshore, yeah, you're going to want to go with a little bit bigger weight to get it on the bottom. But from that, going to just the glass beads. Now, I will say this. I know also some people like to put like a brass clicker or something like that in there, but for me, I don't really do a lot of that. I do retie a lot though. Sometimes the brass clickers protect your weight a little bit better. I mean, not your weight, your knot. But most of the time, I don't do that. I just I go with these glass beads. Now, the reason why I go with glass beads, a lot of people can say you can use plastic, and you can go to Walmart and you can go into the hobby section and you can buy a bunch of those little glass beads in like clear, red, blue. I like trying to change my colors a little bit. So anyways, you can go with these glass beads. Have got a lot better sound to it when it comes to clicking. It's a lot denser sound. Plastic doesn't have a good sound to it for clicking when you're dragging a Carolina rig. It just doesn't. You can go underwater, you can actually hear it like in a pool. If you can test it out in a pool, you can tell the difference big time when it comes to glass and plastic. Coming down to here, I got a Spro swivel. I love the Spro swivels. They're really good. Really strong. I don't ever have no issues with them breaking. You can get those cheapos at Walmart, and I mean, they'll work. But when I first was getting into Carolina rigging, I was throwing those and like getting hung up and stuff. Sometimes you go to yank it out, I've come back with a swivel broke. And it always scared me after that. Like, man, I don't want to lose a big fish off of this. Or say you get a big fish and he gets hung up a little bit and you have to stay with him trying to fight him out of that brush. I'm just always scared that swivel's going to break. So you're not going to break one when you go to like a Spro swivel. When it comes to leader, here I actually got a pretty long leader. I think this one is probably about a 3 or 4 foot leader. I know some guys have actually used the length of their rod as a leader. That's not me. I don't like going that long. And the reason being is I'll go with a 3, 4 foot leader, something like that. But the problem is sometimes the fish will come up and they'll pick this weight up. They'll hear the click and they'll come in, they'll pick it up just being curious. And when you feel it and they start running, you set the hook, you either don't have nothing or you just hooked them in the belly. Because I have caught maybe 3 or 4 fish just this year hooking them in the belly when they've picked the weight up. And I mean, there's no other way I could see them getting in their bellies. Just them picking the weight up, you set the hook and it jerks the hook right by their belly. And you know, the rest is history. So when that starts happening, I will shorten my leader up big time, because you're getting the bait closer to the beads and the ball and the weight, so that way they can see, hopefully see your bait before they go and start attacking the weight and beads. So sorry, I got a cold and I'm trying to talk and clear my throat. But anyways, so I like to say I'll start out with a longer leader, and then as the day goes on, depending on the bite, sometimes you don't have to change nothing. And then sometimes you're gonna have to shorten it up a little bit to get more hookup, to get a better hookup ratio. So just next time, like I say, you're getting hooks, you're getting bites, but you swing for the fences and nothing's there, it's a good possibility they're picking your weight up and they're not picking up your worm. So talking about knots, I just tie a polymer knot. I hear a lot of people don't like tying polymer knots, but I don't know what it is. I don't ever have no issues with knot breaking. And that's key to a polymer knot. If you don't tie it right, you're gonna have knots breaking. So I tie a polymer knot here, and then I'll go ahead and tie a regular fisherman's knot. I don't know what you call that knot, but just a regular knot here, and then I'll tie a polymer knot here. Just because you can't tie a polymer knot here, not unless you do it the reverse way, and then you have to tie a fisherman knot on this way. So that's just kind of my setup right there on, you know, my leader links and how I set which baits I like to use and all that. So let's kind of get into the rod and reel setup and let you know why I like to use what I use when it comes to a Carolina rig. All right, before I let you go, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about my setup when it comes to my rod and reels. Now, this is the Lizard Dragger 2 by Falcon. This is the Cara series. It's a 7-foot rod. This rod is perfect. It's got a great backbone here. It's got a fast tip. So you got that power here on the bottom end, but when you really need to sling one out there, you got that tip, and also you got a long enough rod to set the hook when you make that long cast. So I've really loved going. There for a while I was just using a regular heavy action rod. I also went down to a regular medium heavy action rod. But this rod set up the way it is, it's built for dragging and casting a Carolina rig. So if you get the chance, I'll put the link in the bottom. Go check out the Falcon Lizard Dragger 2. I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed with this rod. I love it. I've been using it for years, from the regular Lizard Dragger to the Lizard Dragger 2. It's been an exceptional rod. I can't say no more about it, just how much I love this rod. So anyways, then going over to a Revo SX. I actually got this is an older one. This is the old Revo SX. I love this reel. I've changed the bearings. It's just a smooth reel, and I love it. But you know, you can go to the Revo SXs. Anything with a fast gear ratio. This, and I say fast now, fast is a lot faster than what it used to be. So this is actually a 7-to-1. But you can go all the way up to the 9s and 10s like the Revo Rockets and all that. And they're great. You want a fast reel for the point of when they start hitting that thing and running with it, you want to be able to reel down fast, especially in a kayak. Because when you set the hook, you're pulling yourself to that fish when you're dragging a Carolina rig. So I like having that fast reel, and I'm actually going to probably move over to the Revo Rocket 10-to-1 that just came out. So I just love that fast reel speed. Like I say, you're catching up. Sometimes you're making really long casts, and when the fish hits it, it may take it a little while to when he starts swimming to you to catch up to him. So you want to make sure you have the fastest gear ratio possible when it comes to throwing a Carolina rig. But other than that, that's kind of my setup, guys. Like I say, I said earlier, I love throwing the Seaguar and VisiX. Right now, I got a 17-pound on here, and it goes down. I got this is actually a 14-pound leader. I go a little bit bigger like that when I'm throwing around a lot of rocks and stuff like that. We can get a little more abrasions. If I get in real clear water like Smith Mountain, I'll go down to about a 12-pound. But I won't go much bigger on my main line because you don't want to have too small a line on your leader, just because you end up snapping something when you go set the hook. You get too small of a line on your leader, it's not a good thing. So I try to match. I try to stay just a little under what my main line is when it comes to that. Now, like I said, you can go with mono, you can go with fluorocarbon. I'll stay with mono if I really want that worm to kind of have a slower sink. So, but the fluorocarbon most of the time is what I go with. And it does really good because I just like to keep that bait on the bottom, like a Destroyer or the 48s, all that. So, alright guys, well I hope this video helped. If you liked it, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and also please hit the subscribe button, smash the bell button beside it, so that way you'll get notifications anytime we come out with a new video. We always got shows coming out on Sunday nights. Sometimes we'll have a bonus show through the week, so that way you'll be up to date on every video we got coming out. We got a few more how-to videos coming out before we actually get into the fishing season, and then we'll really be digging deep into our how-to videos. So, guys, have a great week. Talk to you later.